So we're going to move into our panel sessions. What we want to cover in this session is really to explore the practicalities of adopting technology in law firms. And to do that, I'm joined by a great group of people with diverse experience here. So I'm joined by Katrina Wolfenden, who's from Waitmans, Director of Product and Innovation and a partner at Waitmans. To her left is Taz Khalid, who is Managing Partner at Private Client Solicitors. And then we have Rachel next to her, Rachel Roche, who's founder and owner of Roche Legal. Then we have Samarat Rubin, who's a senior lecturer. You have a longer job title than mine.
Sorry.
Senior lecturer.
Typical academic.
In innovation management at Oxford Brookes University and the Technology in Professional Services Accelerator. And last but absolutely not least, on the end there we have Paul Hinchcliffe, who is co-founder and director at Bot & Co. Now I was going to kick off the session actually pretty much with the same question. Samara, I'm going to come to you afterwards, but same question to four of you initially, which will hopefully give you a chance to just say a little bit more about your perspective. And I really wanted to understand and ask you to share how technology is already changing the way that you and your firm operates. Rachel, in the middle, can I come to you first?
Sure. So one of the things that we have done in our firm, which has been a real game changer for us, it's using tech, but it's also just being able to find information quickly, is by building out an internal Wikipedia so that people can have this internal knowledge base. So if they need to do something or know how to do something, research something, learn about our processes, literally anything to do with anything in the business, there is this knowledge base that is being continually built out. And I would say that is the best thing I've done in my firm in the last 5 years. And that does have AI capabilities. So as that continues to be built out, we can use AI to speed that process up as the firm changes. So that's an example of something that we've done, which has had exponential benefits to us as a team.
Yeah, that's a great example. Thank you. Taz?
So we were approached by a corporate client to do volume documents. And my lawyers were typically doing 2 or 3 bespoke wills or bespoke documents in a day. So whether it's a bespoke trust, private client lawyers, whether it's lasting powers of attorney documents or wills. And then we did get this approach from a client who initially said no to, but ended up saying yes to because we thought we'd dabble in a bit of AI, where they wanted us to produce volume documents. So my lawyers were typically drafting 2 or 3 bespoke documents in a day, and then this volume client wanted us to do more like 50, 60 documents in a day. And we commissioned our own AI that became very intuitive, that allowed us to do the documents. And then the lawyers were concentrating on what they know best, which is doing the lawyering, just checking the documents, as opposed to physically having to draft things like legacies in a document, or certain gifts that they didn't have to bespoke draft. The AI was drafting it for them, and they were just checking it based on the instructions that the underlying clients were giving. So that's been a journey, and it's been an exciting journey that we're looking to kind of scale now more as well.
Great. And another and different example. Kat, maybe you've got a different perspective.
Yeah, so I mean, we're trying to use tech to solve problems, whether that's for clients or internally. And very much looking at the problem first rather than kind of trying to find the whizzy tech to do that. So one of the earliest things we did was an email filing system, which is literally as boring as it sounds. So, filing these emails in your case management system or however else you do them is boring. It's a pain. Even with a wizard, it was taking 30 seconds an email, which, a one-off is fine. But by the time you are getting, multiple versions of emails, everybody's copied into it, you're out and about from the office and it's not saving, that actually becomes a real pain to have to do. But obviously, you know, it's important, it's the system of record, isn't it? You need everybody to be able to pick that up. So we built an email filing assistant that literally sits over Outlook and it's doing that job. So once there's been an email in, it's saving these emails. I'm not lucky with microphones. It's saving these emails into the case management system. And again, that was solving a real problem that our lawyers had. So it removes that dedupe facility. So, you know, lawyers love to copy every man, woman and dog in, don't they? So 20 versions, same email being saved on a case management system. That's gone. You can now be out and about from the office and it's just saving that one version. And I think crucially, and hopefully this is what we'll talk about with the adopting bit, is picking the problems where people actually want them to be solved. So, you know, for the first time ever, we've had, you know, people saying, wow, this is amazing. It's a piece of tech that actually kind of works. It does what we need to, and it's actually kind of, you know, really useful for people as well.
Yeah, no, that's really useful. And sorry if people couldn't hear right at the beginning there, but that, you know, that we will come back to, I'm sure, of, you know, really matching to what is needed. This is about enabling, isn't it? And Paul, do you have another example?
So for us, technology is everything. It's technology first. So for context, we have about 30,000 live clients. Our typical case is worth about 150 quid to us. So we're serving consumers, very high litigation rate. So there's legal work to be done. We're not just sort of pushing paper about. And our journey has been one from a case management system when we set the firm up 20 odd years ago to now embracing things that we find will solve the problems that we have, as opposed to just dipping into the latest whizzy tech. And some of the examples that we saw before were using lots of those things, and but not all of them. And it's going to be an evolving challenge for us. But to answer your question, technology is everything, really.
Can I add something to that, even though I'm not a practitioner?
No, I mean, please, go ahead.
I would just say that we need to remember that law firms run businesses as well. So innovation doesn't have to be through the practice of law. It can happen through the business of law, right? So you have a HR system, you have billing, you have customers onboarding, which are general purpose, you can be used general purpose technology. So we need to think about innovation not only for the practice of law, but also for running a business, right? But not only that, we need to think about how we connect them all together, right? So you talked about a case management system. You want that to connect to your emails. You want that connectivity. You do not want silos of processes, silos of data, because right now it is making you not so efficient, but in the future it will prevent you from moving to the next stage. So there will be a next stage beyond the Gen AI, beyond the AI that we just listened to, Microsoft or other tools. There will be other stages where you could leverage on those data points. So the connectivity is important. To look at a system as a whole is important, not only on the practice of law, but also the business of law.
Yeah, absolutely, and having those foundations for that progression, I imagine is very much about taking that opportunity now. Zamra, should we stay with you? Do you want to say a little bit more about
the accelerator?
The accelerator and what you do, because I think that's going to be really helpful context.
Okay, so accelerator in law, how novel is that? So a few years ago, I was involved in a previous project funded by UKRI Research Council, the government, to study digital transformation in insurance, accountancy, and law. So that was a few years ago before COVID. And one of the things we advise government is actually there's a lot of attention to the tech side, to the supply side of technology. and less for the firms to adopt the technology. And the second thing that we advise the government across the professional services is there's a lot of focus on large established organizations versus small micro firms, mid-size. So the government need to step in that area. So that's where the government, UKRI and the Research Council came out with a call for an acceleration for innovation adoption. Okay, so that doesn't exist in the world. I don't know if you're familiar with accelerators. There are around 400 only in the UK, but they're all focused on the tech side, different sectors. So we were asked as an academics to design something that doesn't exist, an innovation adoption accelerator. And we came up with the tips. I don't know if you heard about the technology in professional services. It's exactly for a law firms, small, medium-sized law firms, and accountancy firms, how to adopt innovation. And we designed several paths, as we call them, like different stages of readiness for firms where they're in their journey of innovation, how to adopt innovation. Do I have another minute to explain?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we have 3 paths for firms to come and engage with us. And as an accelerator, what we do is we introduce a technology, we'll help you to embrace or adopt the technology, and then we go and create what we call a demo day, when we all share as a community, share what we learn, document that, and leverage on that knowledge, and we go again and again in different cohorts. We just finished cohort 1 from off-the-shelf product. We used Microsoft tools. You heard some of the features. I can elaborate on some examples later, maybe during the conversation. How did we train? How did we help those firms to accelerate specific processes? So some, again, use those tools for the practice of law and some for the business of law. And then we have a more advanced path for, we call it the proof of concept, where firms provide more resources of their own, and we provide support to have more in-depth adoption of technology. So it's not off-the-shelf Microsoft tool, here you go, this is what we can help you do with it. It's more like a white label adoption of technology that you can deploy within your organization. And then we have a smaller number of firms where we work for in-depth adoption of acceleration process that we selected around 3 firms, and we go hand in hand together in an acceleration process and a more in-depth program.
Yeah.
So this is the tips. It's available across the UK, and it's still open for firms to apply, and it's free.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure we will. It would be great to hear about some of the examples as we get further into the conversation. But I think that highlighting those kind of different maturities of how to engage with tech, I think is very familiar. So I might come maybe to Kat and to Rachel. I mean, if I'm sat here, or you may be sat there kind of thinking, yes, but okay, tech and how I even take that first step. I just don't know where to begin, and I'm incredibly busy already. What advice? I'll come to you first, Kat. What thoughts do you have about? Okay, where do you begin? How do you start?
Yeah, so I suppose firstly we've all been there, haven't we? So my background was as a lawyer, moved into KM, and then innovation became a side job and then became a full job. And I think it's almost forgetting the tech. It's not starting with that at all. It's looking around your organisation or your client base, looking where there are problems. It's having conversations. It's having a mechanism to collate all those problems. So quite often, every lawyer likes to think their area of law is very bespoke, special, very difficult and nothing like anybody else's. But when you actually start to speak lawyers in different segments, sectors, however you divide it up, there's actually quite a lot of common problems or common issues that they're all finding. They might express that a little differently, but if you only ever speak to kind of one type of lawyer in one particular area of law, you're not kind of getting the full gambit. So, as an innovation team, I'm aware I'm an overhead in a firm now. I'm not practicing. I now sell products, so I do bring in revenue, but I'm very conscious that early on, you want to show that kind of return on investment. So you want to be picking, things that have some bang for your buck. You want a problem that either hits a large enough amount of your firm. So that email filing one was a good one. We've gone from 30 seconds an email to maybe 6 seconds an email, massively reducing the time. And, collect the data. It's really boring. But unless you know what your baseline is of whatever particular problem it is that you're trying to solve, you're not going to be able to show that you've successfully solved that. And that's whether you're using Gen AI to draft something, or you're doing some doc automation, or you're using, e-discovery tools. You have to know what, back-end things that you were talking about. You have to know what your now looks like. You have to know how long it's taken you, the seniority of the type of lawyer and people involved, to then be able to show that you've made a difference. And it really is that, nobody likes to think they're missing out, do they? So you start small, and probably that was our biggest mistake, is we wanted to absolutely hit everything. And we took on too much. With hindsight, we started way too big. But, you quickly learn that, you scale back, you work with the people who are interested. Make sure you bring your naysayers in as well, because there's nothing worse than thinking you've solved something and then having, and we've all got them, haven't we, that really annoying partner who comes in and goes, but mine is different, or not mine, area of law or whatever. Bring them into the conversations early, because you do, innovation is all about diversity of thought. So you do want that range of opinions. So start small, start with something, and make sure you've got your baseline data, would be my top tips.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Rachel, what would be your top tips?
I think Kat's absolutely right. Identify the problem that you want to solve first and forget about the tech. And then just think about the process, again, without the tech, and how then can the tech help you speed up the process or remove some of the steps or whatever it is that you're trying to troubleshoot. The other part of your question was about how do you find the time to do the things?
Yep.
Because there are such a lot of things to do. But we know that implementing technology correctly into any business can really help buy back some of that time, but I found it's very much front-loaded. So you're having to invest so much time now, but you've got to think about it in terms of the long game, and what can you then save in the future in terms of even things like employee costs, managing expectations for clients, all the other incremental and larger gains that you're going to get from making that investment now, both in terms of time, resources, people, everything. We started really small. I have an in-house developer now, so we're able to speed things up. But I think the way I started is just going back to processes. I'm really obsessed with processes and using technology to speed up processes, to really push things forward in processes. And I think Taz was saying about differentiating between the business of law and the practice of law. I think I've actually been far more focused on the business of law, which is an interesting insight that I've got just from your what you've said just today. Purely from the point of view that some of the stuff that I'm doing in terms of the business of law is going to have firm-wide benefits, whereas the practice of law is very much on that particular piece of work or that particular area. So I think as time goes on, and I've created some time saving by doing the investments now, I can then take that learning and implement it across the practice areas that we do to speed up the output, the production output from my lawyers, if that makes sense.
We got an example there. We got a law firm. Actually, they are kind of a family business, quite of a funny creature. So they have financial services, they have accountancy, and they have law. So the two lawyers from that group joined the accelerator. And when we were trying to work with them on that tool of Power Automate. So Power Automate, if you're not familiar, is just designing. It's great for you. It's great. It's like just for about processes. So just to automate and link mostly Microsoft tools, but it has connectors to other systems. So if you want to design a process that used to be manually, you can automate connect, so if you generate a form will feed into, create a spreadsheet, trigger an email for specific people, and there's a signage process, and people sign off, and it's all automatically done. So you can configure that. It's no code, meaning that you don't need to be a programmer, so that's an advantage that we in our era. of technology. So these two lawyers actually, when they designed this flow or a new process for their organization, they said, okay, so we need to design a form, but actually we probably need 3 types of forms because our clients are not in the same level of readiness. So that is an issue when you think about how do you want to innovate. It's not only about your own organization. You need to think about your client's readiness as well. Whether you have a shiny, flashy tool that you think, oh, everything is going to be automated, but wait a minute, you might need to bespoke your digital transformation in different stages, or allow clients that are a bit behind to take it slowly and gradually develop those tools. So it's not unified. It's not like, okay, so this is the tool I'm going to use. This is the new process. Here you go. And then you face your clients that would not embrace that.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in there as well? Having identified a problem, often you don't know what you don't know. You don't know how to solve the problem that you've got. So from my experience, I could see we're inefficient in a particular area. I'd heard about sort of ChatGPT or artificial intelligence, and then I found a wealth of resources, and Microsoft have some fantastic tutorials where you can take yourself a long way through the learning journey from day one, the real explainer of the terminology, some of which we saw up there before. So if you understand the tools that are available, then fine. If you don't understand what's out there, and there's a lot of different sort of scale and context in the room and across the legal profession generally, you've just got to put a bit of time into do a bit of learning yourself, and then you can engage in a conversation then either with colleagues or understand what automation or what tools might be available to solve the problem for you. Just to give you an example, one of my colleagues, he's a lawyer, he does a lot of technology work inside the firm, had an extremely repetitive process and could see that it was basically killing him. Thousands of claims had to go through this same process. Power Automate sort of came across his desk. He looked at it, I looked at it, we learned some more about it, went external, get a quote. £100,000 is the least we'll take a spend with you from you to do stuff with Power Automate. Came back in, taught himself, and is now running that, and that's saving hours and hours a week of user time, and he's self-taught, so you can do a lot yourself, but you've got to have the language and the understanding to be able to engage with the technology.
Yes, come back to that.
I'll add to that. So it is, when you think about your innovation process, you might want to have okay, I'm going to improve that process specifically, but then in a year or 2 years' time, you might be stuck with that tool, and then it doesn't connect to the next innovation that is out there. So it's true that you can teach yourself and you can think about what is out there and try to deploy things. But I think the next step, if you think about long-term innovation, you need to take into account the connectivity. Yeah. So how connected that tool you're going to choose to the world. So you can talk about API, you could talk about connectors in Microsoft language. So you need to be aware of how the tool you choose be able to connect to outside world today and in the future. The more open it is, the more likely you are able to innovate, continuously innovate in the future. So it's not only about improving your current process, it's about a long-term investment in innovation.
Yeah, and that mindset as well, presumably, of that, if one of the barriers could be, hold on, I don't know where to start and have to educate myself, it's having that mindset of keeping looking, keeping understanding of what's out there. I wonder if we should come to you for some questions as well to continue the conversation. Does anyone have a question for any of our speakers or all of our speakers? So Simon, there's a lady at the front here, please, and then I've seen you in the middle as well. Thank you. Could you just say who you are and ask?
My name is Shazia Anjam. I have come from London to attend this event. It's been very useful. I just want to ask, there are already case management software out there, for example, Clio, some other case management software. So this type of system, will that be integrated or incorporated within already existed legal management software, or will this be completely different process to learn for the solicitors and barristers? And the second question will be, what will be the future of barristers who draft the pleadings, contract, and all other legal documents?
Yeah, okay, so really helpful. So 2 points, and so if we come first to that question about the case management system, and then we will come back, I think we're into that, future of lawyers question. On case management, does anyone want to comment?
I could talk about just a quick personal experience. So when we commissioned our robot, which we affectionately call Xena, it didn't complement the existing case management system that we were using. So we were using it in the Microsoft environment that was separate to our case management system. But we have learned from our mistakes because we didn't think ahead, and we have altered our case management system that's got OpenAI, and going forward we won't make that mistake again because we want something with very open capabilities, and so we have changed our case management system, and we need to be mindful of that when choosing or changing case management systems, is to make sure that you have got ones with OpenAI, is I think my understanding.
Yeah, and Paul?
Yeah, so we're left with a legacy case management system that we selected 25 years ago, tried to get rid of it several times and couldn't because the knowledge within the business was so intrinsic to the processing and the efficiency and so on. So although it's expensive and it's clunky, it's what we've got, so we're left with that. And then we work hard to overcome the integration problem. So that has then been a key focus for us, has been how to attach that to other pieces of software. Into Outlook, for example, there was no integration at the start, but there is now. So I'm all for a totally open product. But if you're left with a legacy system that the cost, financial and knowledge-wise, is too high to change, then you've got to find another way around the problem. And that's how we've tackled it.
The data we already have got in the previous case management, for example, for big firms, thousands of cases, how can we transfer that data into the new system? Or do we still have to use both systems?
No. So, we've had a data warehouse for 15, 20 years that is the kind of core centre for all our data processing. So it brings in from case management systems, from CRMs, from billing, from all of that kind of thing. And we can run reports and do things over the top of that. So we could, in theory, swap out any bit of that and the data still all exists. But I think similar to Paul, these systems are expensive. There's a lot of historical knowledge in firms. So again, similar to Paul, we built our own kind of almost concierge app. So as we were starting all of this, there's no point giving a lawyer a tool if they then have to go and put the information and type it in somewhere else because you've not saved any time or efficiency, and lawyers just won't do it. It's just too annoying for them. So, those boring bits of moving data between systems. So, we have built it ourselves to be able to join up various bits of tech. But yeah, if you've got kind of a data warehouse, if you've got all your data in one place anyway, you could almost kind of chop and change till your heart's content, really.
Can I just clarify part of your question? Are you talking about migrating data from one system to another to move case management systems? Yes. Yeah, so I did that about 3 years ago between systems, and it was very painful. I don't want to do it again. We will have to do it again because our existing case management system does not have an open API unless you pay them lots of money or develop your own add-on product, which is an option. My recommendation, having done a hybrid job between doing it myself and working with a consultant, is to give that piece of work as a job lot to an outsourced person to do it. Because mapping fields, doing all those things is very, very time consuming. It nearly finished me off. So I wouldn't do it yourself or even get involved. I would make sure you gave clear instructions to the outsourced company or whoever it is you find to do it for you, and your job then being keeping them accountable in timescales and all the other things that go along with managing that product, that process. But having done a halfway house myself in the business, I wouldn't recommend it, and I wouldn't do it again that way.
Hugely helpful learning. There are other questions, but and I think that kind of future of the profession and future of barristers we might get onto in the later session. Did anyone want to offer any observations on that?
For the future? I've done some work and research work about across the professional services. So insurance, financial services. So the issues are the same. The issues are the same: incumbents or data silos and connectivity and open APIs and how to migrate and how to continuously innovate and privacy, and et cetera. These are all common issues. And I think the challenge is big law firms and insurance or financial institutions, they are out there, they have the money to invest in migration, they have the money to get to consultants to lead them into the full shebang of innovation, while small businesses, it's critical. Every decision they make about their innovation is critical, because going to the next stage will have to be seamless, will have to allow them to go to the next stage with minimum resources, because resources, as we've seen in the accelerator, this is one of the major issues: financial resources, time, how time-consuming it is to learn new things and to go into a different path. So what I'll say is that you are in the critical point where you need to decide about your next innovation, how to digitalize processes. The main recommendation I will provide is to choose a solution that is as open as possible to future innovation in your industry. And I also add to that today, someone mentioned the process of know your customer process or anti-money laundering. These are issues that are coming across the professional services. And today it's quite advanced in the professional services, where we have in the UK, we have open banking, a standard when the government regulate a standard for the banking and the financial services to leverage on. But it's just a hope away from law and accountancy, et cetera, to leverage on those data, on that regulation. So it could be that you don't see that link now, but the potential external sources and processes are out there for you to leverage for your own benefit. So it's always changing. Always choose something that will be open for future connectivity.
I've got one eye on my existing case management system being enlightened on this down the line and creating this open API so we can connect all our systems. That is the only blocker that we have. Everything else talks to each other.
Yeah, so that could be the next step. That's great. There was another question in the middle here, Simon.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thanks for your time, panel. Lawyers of the future, do you think they are tech people who understand the law or lawyers who understand tech? And I'm Alistair Howard.
and can I just ask where your name and where you're from?
Oh, Alistair Howard, Glenville Walker.
Okay. Views on the lawyers of the future. Taz,
That's an excellent question, and one that we often grapple with. And I think there's two types of lawyers. Ones who hate tech and ones who embrace tech, is my view. And you've got kind of, I wouldn't quite call them the dinosaurs, but they're scared of, they just want to do the lawyering. And you've got different personalities. So I think the lawyers of the future, it just very much depends on the individual. And I think it's getting the ones who are really embracing tech to focus on the tech, and the ones who don't want to embrace the tech, let them do the lawyering and keep them that way. That's what I'm doing in my business, is just keeping them apart and hope they don't fight. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
And then I suppose part of the question is about the sustainability of that in terms of, in an ever-changing world. Are there any kind of elements that, in terms of examples of the kind of early adopters that then you can see a thawing amongst others, or is that not yet?
Kat did say that you do have to go and prod the difficult partner or the difficult person at the start and get answering their questions. But even with the kind of new generation coming through, the Gen Zs, I employ about 10 paralegals or 10 very junior kind of lawyers who are, I've got clothes older than them, but they. And even them, some of them are saying, oh, no, I just want to read about Lark and Nougat, so I just want to read about a case that I studied, and I got a first in that. So they, but everybody's different, is kind of my, they've all got to embrace the technology, they've all got to learn how to use Xena that we've got, they all need to be able to press the buttons and get the output. But then the day-to-day tasks I reallocate depending on what they enjoy doing and trying to get the best out of them. That's the kind of how I'm coping with it day to day.
I think
not very well.
How we train lawyers, so we've all got haven't we, new cohorts coming in, probably digitally native. We've got a pile of lawyers already in place that we're chucking new technology at. I think is something for us all to be grappling with. And we've gone through what. I was at uni, I was an I-shaped lawyer, we're now TO, who knows what the next iteration of that is. But I think the future lawyer is somebody who is truly open-minded, who knows what they know, who knows what they don't know, but crucially knows the person in that organisation to have the right conversation with. So thankfully we've moved away from talk of the nons, the non-lawyers and all of that kind of thing. The lawyers of the future who will do well and who progress, we can see that in our firm, people who've accelerated to partnership, that kind of thing. They're good at the internal connections. They know their area of law very well, obviously, but they know who to speak to in different departments. And I think that is the real skill. So, Adam Curfey's book, Law Plus, talks of kind of Law Plus 4 different types of skills. And he says you don't need to be an expert at all of them, in the same way that when these poor trainees come in, we go, you don't have to fulfill all the bits of the O shape because you're not going to. It's trying to pick teams where people have different skills. And it's that base level, isn't it? So, you understand what a prompt is. For example, in Copilot, you might not know how to make a prompt better, but you understand what that is and then how to have those conversations internally, I think.
Can I just...
Go for it.
Rachel, we could talk about this all day, couldn't we? I think my answer to that question is that they will be lawyers who embrace technology. I don't necessarily think they need to understand it. And I think what will happen is you'll still have the lawyers, but you'll have new job roles coming through. So when I think about my future organisational chart, there is a new role in there that I made up, although I'm sure I'm not the first one to have done so, called an AI integrator. So I think there are going to be just new jobs. I don't think lawyers have to be techie, but they are going to have to embrace new ways of doing things. So that was my answer.
I'll just add to that in our accelerator, we train the lawyers themselves, not the IT people. So it's not the technology that we would like to introduce to you, because off the shelf, the suite that Microsoft offer, it's no code, it's just logic. So you need the lawyer that know the process or know what they want to automate. They are the key. They need to know the process. And the tech is just telling a story. This is how the flow I want to generate, and that's what I want to automate. So I think it should be top to bottom rather than let the IT people tell us which technology we would like to use, because there is growing supply of tech providers, and some of you have been to Legal Geek, there are like tens of them in the exhibition of we do this, we do that, but it's not about the tech, it's about I know as a lawyer what takes a lot of time, and I know how to automate a process, and this is the flow. It has nothing to do with tech, really. It's just telling the flow and then making sure that is executed. But also, those lawyers are be the decision maker and the leaders of the firm, so they would say, okay, it works, so we should all go with that, rather than the IT say, oh, you go, another tool to use.
Yeah. I think it's a bit like the barrister question that you brought up earlier, that will barristers almost become redundant? I don't think so. But again, I think there's going to be like an in-between job that's going to be the tech implementation. I think the visionary bit has to come from the barrister. Like you're saying, the lawyer has to know what they want to do, and then the tech person has to do the integration and the implementation of that. Can be useful to the lawyer for the work output.
I'll flip Rachel's answer around the other way, and I'll say, in my business, technologists first and lawyers second. So we've got 120 people, we've got less than 10 solicitors, legal execs, paralegals. So if you're thinking about the rising tide of technology awareness, for example, I'm assuming that everybody will get to a point that that's just natural. So really the focus on, are you a technologist? Well, we'll all be technologists, and we'll then just have different functions within the business on top of that. So the lawyers do the lawyering, not that relevant in terms of volume of people in our business, and other people do other things.
Yeah, really interesting. Now, we have got a break coming up. We've got time for another question from the floor, if there is one. I'm going to come here one because we haven't come to this side of the room. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Anthony Hughes from KP Law. Like Paul, we operate in the sector of consumer claims, very high volume. From the business of law perspective, do you think there's any danger that the regulator won't be able to keep up with the pace of change, bearing in mind the technology advancements that we've seen, certainly during the lifetime of my legal career?
Yeah, so I mean, I will ask for kind of observations in terms of, what others think on that. I think in terms of, I think your question was very much of, on the regulations and keeping pace. I think one of the things that I would start from is that I think it's very important actually for regulators to think about things in terms of principles, similar to some of the conversation that we've already had, to really focus, okay, what's the issue, what's the problem, what is the concern, and avoid actually going down, I think, a mistaken route of being kind of too prescriptive in places. So I think that kind of principles-based starting point is incredibly important for, keeping pace and keeping understanding. I think the second element that I think is really important is as technologies and different challenges present, I do think it's really important with the sector to understand if there are any different challenges coming up and being able to engage and think that through with this sector. So I think my optimistic answer is no. I think if we know the core of what we're trying to achieve and what we're here as a whole sector, but also as the regulator to protect, then if we keep our eye on that key focus, then I think that's the way to keep pace. But I do think there are challenges. Paul?
Yeah, so I guess that's the SRA perspective. So we handle a lot of data, client data, massive issue for us, data security. So the Information Commissioner, for example, has a real neat feature, their sandbox feature, where you can take innovative ideas, services, and you can run it through them. So you draft up a proposal, you put it in, they give you a response, or you get into a bit of a dialogue with them, and you can get sort of a that's okay, proceed, or don't proceed because, or can we sort of think about it a little bit more in the middle. And I found them to be really proactive in trying to work with us, and it was a useful thing for us to go through, and it gave us a positive outcome that we could deploy something that we would have probably worried about deploying previously.
And I suppose one of the trade-offs that can be there is that kind of a regulator wants to be cautious about not holding someone back. Yeah. So that example, that worked quite smoothly, did it?
Yeah, it did. It was to do with using artificial intelligence to review data and then engage with clients in a particular way. And they were interested, very engaged, prompt, and it led to us developing something that we might have said, no, that we can't do that. So it's useful. You're not getting a pass, you're not getting like a shield to put around yourself, but you're getting something that's good guidance from people who are experts, really. And it was free of charge, and you could have gone, we could have spent a lot of money on compliance advice for that.
Really helpful. Thank you. So I'm going to actually just thank the panellists, and we will have a break for half an hour so that hopefully we can pick up and conversations. But I think for me, some of the key points there were about this real focus on, well, actually, what's the issue? What's the problem? Start from there, and then using the enabling tech and the legal skills to, really deliver a solution. And thank you all very much for your insights and examples. Really enjoyable conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.